It is that time of the season again. It is fantasy football time. And I have my quarterback rankings, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, team defense, and kickers. This is going to be a long but really educational and exciting podcast. Or a live stream, however you want to put it. But first, let's read this comment from Carr and Tech Enthusiast. Looks like the Preds shocked us a bit in 6, but still predicted 7. I hope the Penguins end it tonight. So do I as well. But I did say in that predictions video that the Predators in Anaheim could end in 6. Even though I said it'd be 7, I still said it could possibly end in 6. And let's get right to this. I mean, fantasy football is one of my favorite games to play. Every year I have a goal to be the best player that I can be. And I like how there's a lot of strategy involved, and it's divided up in 3 portions, I believe. It's 33% luck, 33% skill and strategy, and 33% of testing your opponents. Now, in the future, I'm going to have a live stream about ways to help you win your fantasy league. But today, these are just kind of my fantasy power rankings. Now, I don't know if these are going to change drastically from now on until opening weekend. But I'm going to start with the quarterback rankings. I think these are the most important position. This is the most important position to look at. Because I know running backs and wide receivers will get you the greatest quality of points, but you still need a quarterback that can at least put up about 20 points a week. So here are my quarterback rankings. So the first quarterback that I have, Aaron Rodgers. Now, I know some people are going to say that Tom Brady probably should be number 1 on this list. But the deal is with Aaron Rodgers is if his wide receivers can stay healthy, I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the number 1 fantasy quarterback this year. And at number 2, we have Tom Brady. And yes, Tom Brady is not number 1 for this reason. It's because he doesn't have all the different targets Aaron Rodgers has. And plus, the Patriots are going to be more of a running team this year than the Packers will be. Because the Packers don't have the running game that New England has. Because it seems like the Packers are just going to be relying on Ty Montgomery this year. Which is going to make Aaron Rodgers throw the ball more. So that's why I have Aaron Rodgers at 1 and Tom Brady at 2. Number 3, I have Matt Ryan. But just because he had a good season last year doesn't mean he's going to repeat the same exact season that he had. I still think he's going to have a great season. I think he's going to put up some solid numbers. I think for as long as Matt Ryan has Julio Jones, he should at least be a top 5 fantasy quarterback. Number 4, this is kind of where we're getting into a little bit of a shock, into the middle of the shockers. Number 4, I have Derek Carr. Number 5, I have Ben Roethlisberger. 6, I have Andrew Luck. 7, Drew Brees. 8, Cam Newton. 9, Dak Prescott. And 10, Eli Manning. Okay, we have Carr and Tech Enthusiast saying that he thinks that Ryan has a letdown because their OC's leaving. Yeah, but here's the thing, though. The thing about the OC leaving is because, honestly, if it wasn't for this OC, sure, the Falcons wouldn't be in the Super Bowl. But Steve Sarkisian also has an offensive genius of his own. Georgia Sports Central, I think that Roethlisberger should be lower because of injury history. It's not because of his injury history. It's because of who all he has as wide receivers. I mean, they even drafted Juju Smith-Schuster. And he still has Antonio Brown. And he looks like he's going to have Martavis Bryant back this season. So as long as he can still throw screen passes to Le'Veon Bell. So maybe Ben Roethlisberger should be lower, but I'm still putting him with the top 5 because I feel like he's the greatest option if you're unable to get either Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or Matt Ryan. Andrew Luck at 6. Now, I feel like he would be a little bit lower because he's not going to have a good offensive line. So this is kind of the one where I'm kind of questioning myself a little bit. And if we do another rankings podcast, then it'll probably be lower than 6. Drew Brees at 7. Drew Brees is always going to be a dependable quarterback that can put up 4,000 passing yards a year. But this year, who does he really have to throw to, other than Michael Thomas? I mean, Willie Snead is just Willie Snead's like exactly a reliable wide receiver, which we'll get to the wide receivers later on. But I feel like Drew Brees is going to have a little bit of a lower passing yard season. Number 8 with Cam Newton. I feel like he would be the best option for a fantasy quarterback because of his ability to run the football. Because rushing touchdowns for a quarterback are still going to be 6 points. And plus, Andrew Luck occasionally has rushing touchdowns. Kind of like number 9 with Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has guys to throw to as well. And Eli Manning at 10. Now I know this is going to be a really controversial pick, but hear me out though. Eli Manning has all these different weapons at wide receiver. Odell Beckham, Brandon Marshall, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram at tight end now. He's got all these different types of targets. And I believe he's going to utilize them. He's going to have a pretty good, valuable fantasy season. Now here we kind of go to my kind of second tier of quarterbacks in a way. 11, Jameis Winston. 12, Matthew Stafford. 13, Russell Wilson. 14, Kirk Cousins. 15, Andy Dalton. 16, Phillip Rivers. 17, Carson Wentz. 18, Marcus Mariota. 19, Carson Palmer. And 20, Joe Flacco. Now these are kind of my second tier quarterbacks. I feel like if any of these quarterbacks would sneak into the first tier, it'd be Jameis Winston. Because Jameis Winston now has all these different weapons. Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson. O.J. Howard now at tight end. Who we're going to talk about later on when we get to the tight end rankings. I'll go with Carr and Tech Enthusiast saying Phillip Rivers could have a top 10 quarterback season, but I honestly don't feel like he's going to have as well of a season as the guys ahead of him in this rankings list. Because I calculated this on who I think could probably get the most passing yards. And I know Phillip Rivers is going to utilize Mike Williams at wide receiver. I mean, Mike Williams could probably be one of the top rookie wide receivers taken in all the drafts. But whatever to watch says Marcus is a little low. Honestly, I would say Marcus Mariota is a little bit low in this list. But however, the reason being is, who will Marcus Mariota really have to throw to other than Corey Davis and Delaney Walker? Like, if Corey Davis goes down or Delaney Walker goes down, he's really going to have really one good wide receiver to go to. And 19, Carson Palmer. I honestly feel like this is going to be his last season, it feels like. And who does Carson Palmer really have to throw to other than Larry Fitzgerald, who's dependable? I mean, even Larry Fitzgerald wasn't that dependable last year. And 20, Joe Flacco. Kind of who will he have to throw to other than Bashard Perriman? Now, this is my final tier of quarterbacks. Now, these are quarterbacks that you should probably only start if you're, like, in desperate times, if they call for desperate measures. Like, for example, if you're in, like, a 14-man league, and you need to have 2 quarterbacks on your team, you got to at least have one of these, kind of be on the safe side. These are guys who could probably be dependable. Or if you have, like, Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, like, if this is, like, a late round pick that you have, kind of get somebody that you're probably going to start maybe once when it's their bye week, or maybe twice, depending on maybe at the end of the season, if the coaches decide to rest him up for, like, a playoff run. So here we go with 21 through 30. Alex Smith at 21. Ryan Tannehill, 22. Tyrod Taylor, 23. 24, Sam Bradford. 25, Deshaun Watson. 26, Trevor Siemian. 27, Blake Bortles. 28, Mike Glennon. 29, Brian Hoyer. And 30, Jared Goff. Now, I'm not going to talk about all these different quarterbacks. But Alex Smith at 21. Honestly, it feels like Alex Smith's starting job might be in danger of losing it to Pat Mahomes. But if it's not, who does Alex Smith really have to throw to? Usually the Chiefs' offense is just based off running plays and gadget passes to Tyreek Hill. That's all it really is, it seems like, with the Chiefs' offense. So Alex Smith is probably only a quarterback that you should take as like a second quarterback. Thank you, Car and Tech enthusiasts. That means a lot knowing that I worked really hard on these rankings. I spent over a week on these. How positive are you, Car and Tech enthusiasts, that the Browns are going to start Kessler? Because I feel like they might, but I feel like Deshaun Cousins might see the field toward the middle of the season. But Deshaun Watson 25. Here's why I put him at 25. We don't really know if he's going to really start week 1. I know some people have said that they're going to start week 1. But Bill O'Brien seemed really content that they were still going to go with Tom Savage on opening weekend. So that's why I put him at 25. But if they would be 100% sure Watson would be starting, he'd probably be in the second tier. Because of all the different wide receivers that Watson would have to throw to as options, like Hopkins or Will Fuller or C.J. Fedorowicz. And all the other quarterbacks, I probably wouldn't see anybody drafting unless they're in like a 16-man league and they wanted 2 quarterbacks. But again, I'm going to put all the rankings of quarterbacks and running backs, wide receivers, etc., etc. I'm going to put all of them in the description box below. Anyway, here is your running back rankings. Now these are, the top 5 are kind of like first or number 1 tier running backs. Number 1, I have David Johnson. 2, Ezekiel Elliott. 3, Le'Veon Bell. 4, Devonta Freeman. No biased opinion there. 5, LeSean McCoy. David Johnson, number 1. This is probably a no-brainer. Because honestly, when I was making these rankings, I figured that David Johnson is going to be at least 80% of the Arizona Cardinals offense this upcoming season. There's no doubt about that. Zeke Elliott, number 2. Honestly, I feel like either one of these can be the number 1 running back. I mean, there's no possible way you're going to be able to get both these on your fantasy team unless you're in an auction draft and you just bid high money on these guys. Whatever to watch, Coleman and Freeman are top 20 running backs to me. Well, stay tuned. Devonta Freeman at 4. Now, this is probably going to be a high-quality season for Devonta Freeman because he's trying to prove that he can get a contract extension. LeSean McCoy, number 5. Kind of the same thing as David Johnson. He's going to be pretty much nearly over half, close to 80% of the Bills' offense. Now here's kind of the second tier of running backs. 6, DeMarco Murray. 7, Leonard Fournette. 8, Marshawn Lynch. 9, Jay Ajayi. 10, Melvin Gordon. 11, Jordan Howard. Antonation McCoy is on the hot seat. This is probably going to be the season that LeSean McCoy's going to have to prove himself. Because since he's on the hot seat, he's going to have to prove himself this season that he wants to be on this team. Jay Ajayi at number 9. This is probably the pick that I was kind of having mixed feelings about. Because Jay Ajayi had a great quality season last year. But there's always a history of running backs that just have one good season and then we don't really hear from them for the rest of their career. But I feel like Jay Ajayi is I think he'll do just fine this year. I don't know if he's somebody that I'm going to consider drafting. Although I'm the same person that said to pass on David Johnson in fantasy drafts last year. But I would say draft Jay Ajayi if you're unable to get one of the first 8 running backs. Same with Melvin Gordon. Anyway, 11 through 20. Jordan Howard at 11. 12, Carlos Hyde. 13 Lamar Miller, 14 Dalvin Cook, and I'm going to talk about him in a second. 15 Eddie Lacy, 16 Mark Ingram, 17 Todd Gurley, 18 Isaiah Crowell, 19 Spencer Ware, 20 Ty Montgomery. Now 14, Dalvin Cook at number 14. I have a strong feeling that he's going to be a starting running back by week 4. I feel that way because they used their first draft pick this year on Dalvin Cook. So I feel like the Vikings got a steal, and I think they're really going to use him. So I put Dalvin Cook on your team. I'd probably say maybe about the 5th or 6th round. Ty Montgomery at 20. Yep, Amp Nation says Dalvin Cook is going to lead the Vikings. Latavius Murray and Jarek McKinnon are situational. All right, so here's 21 through 30. This is kind of a third-tier running back. 21, Tevin Coleman. 22, Thomas Rawls. 23, Derrick Henry. 24, Rob Kelly. 25, C.J. Anderson. 26, Bilal Powell. 27, Joe Mixon. 28, Theo Riddick. 29, Frank Gore. And 30, Paul Perkins. So before I wrap up the running back section, let me just say, some running backs to watch out for in this section. I would say watch out for Joe Mixon. Because I've seen some Bengals fans on some live streams from other channels, and they say that Joe Mixon he's about to steal the starting job from Jeremy Hill. And that Jeremy Hill is on his way out the door. That's all I'm going to add for the running back section. And now we are on to kind of the most stacked position in fantasy football, the wide receivers. Now, the wide receivers are kind of are my favorite position to look for in fantasy football. Because there's so many dependable ones in this top 30. But I'll warn you guys right now, though. Some of these rankings, they're going to be... I know some are going to have mixed emotions about it. But here we go. Number 1, of course, is going to be Antonio Brown. Really dependable guy. You're at least going to get 10 points a week from him. 2, Julio Jones. 3, Odell Beckham. 4, AJ Green. 5, Jordy Nelson. 6, Mike Evans. 7, Dez Bryant. 8, DeAndre Hopkins. 9, Amari Cooper. 10, Brandon Cooks. Now, those are kind of my top tier wide receivers. All these guys are really dependent on getting 10 points a week. For Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Odell Beckham, AJ Green, Jordy Nelson, maybe 15 points a week. Kind of the second tier. These are guys that may not necessarily get the job done every week, but they'll get it done in somewhat of a consistent basis. 11, T.Y. Hilton. 12, Alshon Jeffrey. 13, Michael Thomas. 14, Doug Baldwin. 15, Jarvis Landry. 16, Terrell Pryor. 17, Julian Edelman. 18, Kelvin Benjamin. 19, Demaryius Thomas. 20, Larry Fitzgerald. Those are 11 through 20. As I said, Larry Fitzgerald is kind of drops in this list because he wasn't as dependable last year as he's normally been. Doug Baldwin had a really good start last season. And Alshon Jeffrey now being on a new team. Carson Wentz is really going to be looking for Alshon Jeffrey on at least every other third down that they have. With Alshon Jeffrey's height and his speed, he's probably going to be the top scoring receiver on the Eagles. Now, 21 through 30, these are kind of guys that you may want to at least take a little caution or take some time to think. Are these guys going to get the job done for me? like if you're in a 14-man league, you might have to have at least one of these guys on here. You got to think, which one of these is going to get me some points? 21, Keenan Allen. 22, Allen Robinson. 23, Tyreek Hill. 24, Golden Tate. 25, Randall Cobb. 26, Corey Davis. 27, Eric Decker. 28, Emmanuel Sanders. 29, Brandon Marshall. And 30, Michael Crabtree. Now, there are so many good wide receivers that were not even listed on here. The wide receiver group is just that stacked up. But Tyreek Hill, he's more of a... I feel like Tyreek Hill could be somebody to look for. Some say he should have been considered for Rookie of the Year if it weren't for Ezekiel Elliot. Randall Cobb at 25. Now I think he's going to have kind of a down year again because he kind of had a battle with injuries last year. So that's why he's kind of low based off of last year. Because most of what ESPN and Yahoo and NFL.com do is kind of base it off of last year. Corey Davis at 26. Now I feel like he's going to be one of only 2 wide receivers that Marcus Mariota will try to target consistently. 29, Brandon Marshall. Now, he's only this low because Odell Beckham is on his team as well. If he was still with the Jets, I'd put Brandon Marshall probably in the top 10. But since he has Odell Beckham lining up alongside him, his number's going to go down a little bit. But he's still probably going to be able to pick it up for a couple weeks. And he even said he's okay with being the number 2 wide receiver. And now, as we wrap up the wide receiver rankings, let me just say that the wide receivers are going to be really important. When we get to the podcast or live stream on the tips to win your fantasy football league, I'm gonna be mentioning running backs and wide receivers a lot. And now on to... Thanks, Amp Nation. It means a lot. Thanks for tuning in, by the way. I know this is kind of unexpected, and I wasn't planning to do a live stream until about a half hour ago. Now on to the rankings that... The position that's really at a premium in fantasy football these days. The tight end. Now one is going to be an obvious one. So we'll just skip this person, because somebody in the comment section will just immediately know which one I'm talking about. Nah, I'm just kidding. We all know Gronk's going to be the number 1 tight end taken in 99% of fantasy leagues. So Gronk is at 1. 2, Travis Kelce. 3, Greg Olsen. 4, Jimmy Graham. 5, Jordan Reed. Now those are the top tier tight ends. 6, Tyler Eifert. 7, Delaney Walker. 8, Kyle Rudolph. 9, Martellus Bennett. And 10, Hunter Henry. Those are kind of your second-tier tight ends. Those are kind of the guys that, if you're unable to get somebody in the top tier, depending on how many people in your league, those are tight ends you can easily fall back on. 11, Eric Ebron. 12, Zach Ertz. 13, Jason Witten. 14, Jack Doyle. 15, O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard could easily have a top 10 tight end kind of season. Because O.J. Howard's going to be a really big target inside the red zone. Now 16 through 20, these are kind of guys that'll probably have a couple good seasons. Not a couple good games throughout the season. 16, Zach Miller. 17, Antonio Gates. 18, Ladarius Green. 19, Evan Ingram. 20, Julius Thomas. That's kind of the tier of, like I kind of said, they're not going to be good week to week, but there will be some weeks that they will be good. But you just got to guess which weeks they're going to be good at. Now, 21 to 30, they have... It's kind of a story of two tales in this kind of group. It's a group that could be efficient week to week, but are they going to get enough targets based off wide receivers they have on their respective teams? 21, Dennis Pitta. 22, CJ Fedorowicz. 23, Austin Hooper. 24, Kobe Fleener. 25, David Njoku. 26, Charles Clay. 27, Jermaine Gresham. 28, AJ Derby. 29, Jared Cook. And 30, Vance McDonald. So that group of tight ends, it's not a group that I would recommend drafting. Only if you're in a 16 and a 14 or 16 man league. Anything less than that, you can easily pass on these guys or pick them up in the free agency or the waiver wire. I do apologize. I'm kind of moving fast. I was trying to cut this down to about a half hour, but we're already at 26 minutes. Now, this is the one that requires the most thinking. Defense and special teams. Now, I feel like there's going to be some surprise in this list. But we will see how you feel about them. Number 1, this is going to be a major surprise right off the bat. Kansas City. Now, this defense is basically a turnover machine. They can force turnover after turnover. Really solid special teams. Really great defense. Great secondary. Marcus Peters is an interception machine. Marcus Peters, Eric Berry, interception machines. Number 2, Seattle. 3, Denver. 4, Houston. 5, New England. I feel like if you're going to win your fantasy league, you probably got to at least get close to drafting one of those 5 team defenses. Anthony Nation, Johnny needs to get a subscriber league going. I tried to get that last year, but I couldn't get enough people for it. I'm thinking maybe I might do multiple ones. Maybe a 10-person league or an 8-person league. We'll talk about that kind of later on when we come closer to that. All right, 6 through 10, 6 Minnesota, 7 Atlanta, 8 Arizona, 9 New York Giants, 10 Carolina. Now, those are team defenses that you can easily fall back on if you're able to get someone in the top 5. Atlanta's is probably the most overrated in the NFL. We saw that last year in the playoff run until that collapsed in the second half of the Super Bowl, but it wasn't on the defense completely. Nine, the New York Giants. So this is kind of a pick that I would kind of have mixed feelings on. Because you just don't know with a team like the Giants or anybody in the NFC East. You just don't know about the NFC East defenses. And Carolina's at 10. Now, their secondary was torched last year, especially particularly by Julio Jones, who had 300 receiving yards on him in Week 4. Anyway, 11 through 20. 11 Pittsburgh, 12 Oakland, 13 Cincinnati, 14 Philadelphia, 15 Tampa Bay, 16 Tennessee, 17 Los Angeles Chargers, 18 Miami, 19 Los Angeles Rams, 20 Green Bay. Now, I know some people would say that Green Bay's defense should be ranked below 20. I feel like exactly 20 is what they need. Because I feel like Green Bay is going to have a much better defense this year. I think they'll be really improved. Especially if everybody has the opportunity to get healthy. Maybe they can emerge with a top 15 defense. Now we're at the bottom tier of defenses. 20 through 32. 21 Jacksonville. 22 Baltimore. 23 the New York Jets. 24 Buffalo. 25 Dallas. 26 Washington, 27 Detroit, 28 Chicago, 29 New Orleans, 30 Cleveland, 31 San Francisco, 32 Indianapolis. Now, I know San Francisco's had the worst defense in the fantasy. Oh, hang on a second. Wilson Breckenridge. He missed where I put the Cardinals D. I put him at number 8. right in between Atlanta and New York Giants. I feel like Arizona has that type of defense where they can get interceptions, they can get to the quarterback. But how efficient is that Cardinals defense going to be? Now, I have Indianapolis as the last ranked defense for this reason. I have a strong feeling they're going to be out on the field for a long time because the Colts did not invest in offensive line help in the draft. So I feel like the Colts will have 3 and outs a lot. Jaguars defense will be better with Coughlin and Doug, says Car and Tech Enthusiast. I've seen some people say the Jaguars are probably a top 10 defense. But however, everyone has gone on the Jacksonville Jaguars hype train for the last 2 seasons. And they have not even shown progress in this rebuilding process. So that's why I have Jacksonville at so low. Because Jacksonville's defense is a huge risk. Now, Dallas 25, this is kind of an interesting one. Because Dallas is not the defense that you would draft unless you were in desperate need. This is kind of a team defense that you would look at if you're looking on like a bye week if you have Seattle's defense or Denver's or Kansas City's or whoever's defense you have. Because the Cowboys really struggle on defense. We saw that time and time again these last handful of seasons. So I'm going to wrap up the defense rankings. Now, the final ones, these are the kickers. Now, I know kickers aren't necessarily the important thing for fantasy football, but the kickers are more important than you think. Every position in fantasy football is really important. And the kicker is just a small part of a big fantasy team. Now, these top 10 these 10 kickers, I basically got these guys that I came up with the group of the 10. Unless you have a kicker kicking 20 points. Says Amp Nation. Yeah, but kickers are more important than you think. These are the top 10 I have guys that are really dependable. You can depend on week to week. Number 1, Dan Bailey. 2, Steven Gostkowski. 3, Matt Bryant. 4, Justin Tucker. 5, Adam Vinatieri. 6, Cairo Santos. 7, Mason Crosby. 8, Sebastian Janikowski. 9, Stephen Hauschka. 10, Brandon McManus. Now, those 10 kickers are really accurate, really dependable guys, can get you at least maybe 12 to 15 points a week. And they're really reliable from inside 40. Now, 11 through 20, this is kind of the group of kickers that'll probably miss every once in a while. 11, Matt Prater. 12, Chris Boswell. 13, Graham Gano. 14, Will Lutz. 15, Dustin Hopkins. 16, Caleb Sturgis. 17, Josh Lambo. 18, Blair Walsh. 19, Nick Novak. 20, Phil Dawson. 21, Roberto Aguayo. 22, Chandler Cantazaro. 23, Ryan Suckup. 24, Greg Zerlin. 25, Robbie Gould. 26, Kay Forbath. 27, Andrew Franks. 28, Jason Myers. 29, Connor Barth. 30, Zane Gonzalez. Now, I kind of just went through those kickers really quickly. Let me just break it up. 11 through 20, those are guys that would really be dependable, but they'll miss every once in a while. I mean, even the top 10 kickers on that list are going to miss every once in a blue moon. 11 through 20 could probably miss one field goal out of 5 they have in a game. And 21 through 30, those are kind of guys you would probably just look at only starting maybe 1 week. And that's the week where your starting kicker, like if it's Dan Bailey or Steven Gostkowski or Justin Tucker, are on that team's prospective bye week. So 21 through 30, those are kind of the kickers that are probably going to be available on the waiver wire. Of course, unless you're in a 16-man league, or ESPN does up to 20-man league, I think, still. So you might end up drafting one of these kickers if you're in a league with that many people. So I kind of evened it out there a little bit. Or that's the wrap up on kickers. In fact, that is a wrap up on these fantasy rankings. Once again, I will put these in the description box below for those that are watching right now and for those that are going to be watching later on. They'll be in the description box, so don't worry. You don't have to watch the whole 36-minute live stream again. I'll just put them right in the description box so you can take a look at. Hey, how's it going, B-Money? Take Joe Mixon, you will win. Says it's B-Money. Alright, I'll hold you to it, B-Money. Wilson Breckenridge, thanks for the list, Johnny. Now, thank you for tuning in. I know this is kind of an unexpected thing. I kind of thought this was going to be a complete disaster from the start. I might make a fantasy football kind of tips on how to win your league and how to build up success. I thought about doing it last year. I couldn't get the motivation that I had last year. Because I think this year I'm more motivated. Because knowing that my channel has really improved. I believe I have 730 subscribers now, which is really impressive. I might do more live streams coming up. Like, I'll tell you what my plans are for the next handful of days or the next week or two. I'll kind of take note here for myself. We're in store for the Stanley Cup final prediction. And we got the NBA finals coming up, which we're getting ready for Warriors and Cavs, the saga to continue. Any fantasy base talk in the future? The thing about that, Will, is it's not as popular as football or basketball. Road to 1K, you will get there by November, probably early, says whatever to watch. That means a lot for your support. I remember that you were subscribing to me when I was only at maybe 350. We're going to bring back college football talk pretty soon. Probably a preseason top 25. I'm currently working on that. I think I'm inside the top 15 still, though. But I think we're going to have that coming up pretty soon. Maybe sooner than what I am planning on doing. And then we'll probably do a couple NHL talk videos with the whole expansion draft and the whole Vegas Golden Knights coming an NHL team. I'll probably do an NHL mock draft. I'll see how it does. We'll do at least one more NBA mock draft coming up. Which, by the way, it's B-Money says fantasy baseball is the hardest fantasy sport. Fantasy baseball, I feel like I'm better at than football because there's something about baseball that I kind of excel in, surprisingly. It means a lot, Car Tech enthusiasts. I appreciate you tuning in. I didn't think anybody was going to take a look at this, to be honest with you. But right now we have 4 people on. I was only expecting like maybe 1 or 2 people on there. But I think we've had some people come in and out of the chat room. But I think in future live streams when I'm kind of more prepared. I'm kind of like that too, B-Money. I kind of try to set mine up at least every week. Like if I can provide any tip in fantasy baseball. Alright, I'll check that out, animation, as soon as I end the live stream. But I feel like maybe we can take about 5 minutes to talk about whatever you want to talk about, whether if it's like the preview of the college football rankings or maybe an early NBA Finals prediction video. But I feel like college football is going to be a great season this year. I mean, even though we have it always being dominated by Alabama, I feel like there are some teams that could probably surprise Alabama this year and probably pull off an upset against them. Let's be really scared to watch Alabama come out this year. Talk about Atlanta and what needs to happen with them at the start of the NFL season. Well, odds on LeVar shaking the commissioner's hands instead of Lonzo when he gets drafted. Well, I'm sure LeVar is probably going to be there on draft night. I feel like LeVar Ball, I feel like he has enough common sense to just let Lonzo just go up there and shake the commissioner's hand. I think LeVar is going to be there sitting at his table in the green room, but I don't think he's going to go up there with him. But honestly, if I'm Lonzo Ball, I'm asking LeVar to just stop. Indy 500 prediction video. I think we'll get to it. But anyway, that is all I have for you today. We'll check out some couple of live streams coming up. Anyway, have a great evening, everybody. I will see you in my next video. Tonight we'll do a Stanley Cup final prediction video if the Penguins are able to clinch it tonight. But we will do an NBA Finals video if the Cavs clinch it in 5 pretty soon. But we'll have it up eventually. Maybe Indy 500 prediction video but the thing with that, last year it only got to about 78 views, I think. That's kind of the scariest thing about that. Is I don't want to ruin an average about the Indy 500, but the Indy 500 is a really important race. And that's the only IndyCar race I watch all year. Because it's a race around the world. Anyway, I will see you next time. Have a great night. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at JBTalkSports. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're not already. All right, have a good night.